I am in Los Angeles at A Noise Within to interview Ann Noble, who is playing Richard III in their production of Richard III. A Noise Within has become one of the country's leading homes for classical theater. Founded in 1991 by Julia Rodriguez Elliott and Jeff Elliott, the company was built around a resident ensemble dedicated to performing the great works of dramatic literature. Today, the theater operates from a beautiful purpose-built campus in Pasadena. Its 324-seat thrust stage brings the audience close into the action, while rehearsal studios, costume and scenic shops, and classrooms support both productions and a strong education program. At its heart, A Noise Within is about actors, language, and story, keeping the classics alive for a modern audience. Well, first off, thank you. Let me introduce you. Everybody, I am here at A Noise Within to see Richard III tonight, and I have the great privilege of interviewing Richard, Ann Noble, who's playing the role. So, Ann, thank you very much for your time.
You're so welcome.
So, what was your first experience with Shakespeare ever in your life, and how do you think that influenced your path as an actor or in the profession?
It's a very good question. So I was forced to read Shakespeare in, grade school. So I grew up in Illinois, outside Chicago.
Okay.
And we were required to read Shakespeare. So the first Shakespeare I ever read was Romeo and Juliet, which I think a lot of people in this country have to read. I say have to. And it was the one that had the script on one side and then the little words that were confusing on the other side. I don't know if that's the Folger or not. But I remember reading it, and I very fortunately had a teacher who said, it's not going to make sense until you read it out loud. So we read it out loud in our class. So we would read it at home, and I had no idea what was going on. I couldn't figure it out. And then we would read out loud. I was like, wait, these sounds, like the way it sounds, and you'd start to get it. You'd start to understand. So I was really lucky to have gone to a junior high and a high school that had huge support of the arts. So I was doing plays from a very little kid. So I was interested in drama. And I just thought Shakespeare was whatever. But I don't know, it kind of happened I didn't do Shakespeare perform it till college. But in high school, when I was reading it, every single teacher I read the Scottish play, and then I had a class that's focused on Hamlet. Every time I had a teacher that would read it out loud in class. So we would read it. We wouldn't really do scenes from it, but we would read it with energy. And because I was an actor, they frequently would give me parts to read. And so I liked it, thought it was interesting, but it really wasn't until I went to college. And then I was very fortunate to get to spend a couple summers in England and see Shakespeare done at the National, at the Barbican, little theaters all over the place, and then, get to work on them in college. And that's sort of where I really fell in love with it. I kind of fell in love with how hard it is. And I couldn't believe we were still doing it 400 years later. So funnily enough, Richard III is the first scene I ever did. So I played Lady Anne with Richard III. It was my first Shakespeare scene in college that I ever performed. So a little bit of full circle, and even full circle, because I'm on the other side of that scene now. So yeah.
Excellent.
So that's how I got to get in touch with it and keep growing with it.
Excellent. As an actor, how do you approach Shakespeare's characters to bring them to life for an audience today?
Well, I am very serious about my text. I am very serious about my words, about how I use the text. So in college and then after college, I was trained as an actor to playwright is king. So honor what the playwright is trying to do. Within that frame, go crazy. But what's the frame? What's the ground? What's the style? What is the playwright trying to communicate? And so I have brought actually my book. This is the second book I have. So I do this with my...
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so I do, this is my dialect book. So this has a lot more of my dialect notes, but like soliloquy. My other book has all the meter, the the subject, verb, object, the sentence structure, and then I write ideas down. So this is like the light book, but this is all my dialects because we are doing British dialect because we're setting it in England in the 1970s. So I don't mess around. I do the meter very specifically. I don't talk in the meter, so I'm not, now is the winter of our discontent. I don't do that, but I use the meter to teach me meaning. So because Shakespeare doesn't have a lot of, stage directions or anything like that, Shakespeare has all the words and the sounds. So I look at where's the meter broken? Where is the word getting repeated? Where are these sounds getting repeated? Where is there an absence of sounds? It's very interesting. They use this phrase all the time. I was trained up that way. So I look at the text exclusively and I come into first rehearsal fully memorized. So I literally do not mess around. So I came into this rehearsal fully memorized off book. It took me a month every morning, 3 hours to 4 hours working on the script to be fully memorized. And I also then memorize with meaning. So once I go through the meter, and the biggest thing I do that takes the longest time in Shakespeare is what I call subject, verb, object. It's the sentence structure for our 6th grade grammar, but it is literally what goes with what. So because the language is cryptic for our modern ears, you have to help the audience to know what goes with what. So you have to let them know if this little fragment belongs to the subject or the verb or the object. Is it a parenthetical? Is it a little sidebar? Is it a question? Is this word describing that word? So I do all of that so that I can be as clear as possible. And when
Anne was gracious enough to share the details of how she works her process.
Now we move into, after we've done the meter, then we move into sentence structure. I take a different colored pen. I don't want it to look like the text, so I use a green pen. I like a green or purple or blue, something that's not going to look like black. And I don't use red because red is my internal thoughts. A blessed labor, my most sovereign Lord. I'm answering this, right? Blah, blah, blah. Brother, we done deeds of charity, made peace, enmity, fair love of hate between these swelling, wronged, incensed peers. A blessed labor, my most sovereign Lord. Okay, that's a sentence. That's an end. So see how a colon is usually an end of a sentence? Okay. Among this princely heap, if any here by false intelligence or wrong surmise hold me a foe, I desire to reconcile me to his friendly peace. Cool. Okay, so this is actually all one sentence. Among this princely heap, if any here by false intelligence or wrong surmise hold me a foe, I desire to reconcile me to this friendly peace. Now, it's a double sentence. It's a two-parter. So it's like an if-then. If this is true, then this. You will find this all over the place in Shakespeare. If-thens. If this, then this. Now, if we've got an if-then, then what I do is I make a little arrow up here like this, which tells me to go up on this line because I'm setting up. There's a two-part sentence. Among this princely heap, if any here are false intelligence or wrong surmise hold me a foe. If they hold me a foe, I desire to reconcile me to his friendly peace. Okay, so it's an if-then. And sometimes I will even write up here if-then for myself, just so I know in my mind that it is an if-then. Okay.
fully. So I am very, very technical in my Shakespeare. But the reason I do that is because I want to be free. I don't want to have to think about it up there. But it's very, very important to me that I understand everything I'm saying. Nothing is, and if I don't understand it, let's cut it. There's no point. If we can't figure it out, get rid of it. Nobody cares. It's a modern audience. If the modern audience doesn't understand it, get rid of it.
And it seems to me that with that scaffolding, with using the text as the foundation, it does free you up to find even greater interpretations and make greater discoveries during the rehearsal process.
Absolutely, absolutely. I have a line early on in the very first monologue where I say, why I, in this weak piping time of peace, have no delight to pass away the time. So that why, I've chosen to do it differently. I chose it to ask as a question because the line before is that dogs bark at me when I pass by them, right? Why? I, in this weak piping time of peace. No one says what the punctuation is, but it fits for what I'm doing. And that was a discovery that we made in the rehearsal. I was like, wait, I'm angry at God for cursing me this way. I'm going to have a conversation with nature. And it works. And then I change back to my subject. Some artists say, why I? which totally works. So we've played a lot with things so that they can be clear and it can be a better story. But absolutely, scaffolding is a wonderful word. The scaffolding and the foundation are strong. And that way then I can bend like a tree in weather.
In your signature, in your email, you quote Thomas Aquinas.
I do.
And so how do those ideas, how does integrity and harmony and clarity shape your process?
So that is, I learned that quote, not from Thomas Aquinas. I learned it from James Joyce because it's in Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man. So I'm a huge James Joyce freak. So in the Portrait of the Artist, the Young Man, the quote is 3 things are necessary for art: integritas, consonantia, and claritas. So wholeness, integrity, rhythm, harmony, and then radiance, clarity. So what I understand that to be is that for a piece of art to create what we call aesthetic arrest, when you look at a piece of art and you go, and it holds you. That's what art is supposed to do. It's supposed to hold you. It's not supposed to pull you in or push you away. It's supposed to hold you. There's 3 things required for that. Wholeness. You have to know what it is and what it's not. So integrity is all one thing. So I look at my performance as what belongs inside this play and what does not belong in this play. I don't use my right arm. That's part of what we've decided for Richard. So me using my arm is outside the play. So it doesn't belong in this play. So that for me is wholeness, integrity. The second one, consonantia, rhythm or harmony. That is the relationship of every part to every part. So if I'm holding a knife, what's my relationship to this knife? My clothes, what's my relationship to my clothes? What's my relationship to the other character, the other actor? What's my relationship with this floor, these shoes, this air I breathe, the audience? I need to know what every part is. Same thing with my word choices, right? Why I use these words. So my relationship to every part to every part. And then the last one, claritas or radiance. That's something that's a little mystical. I believe if you know what it is and what it's not, wholeness, you know the relationship of every part to every part, consonantia, rhythm, the divine light will shine through. And it is your job, I believe, as an artist, to be a window for the story to shine through.
What does it mean to you personally to play Richard III?
Personally, well, it's kind of silly to say, but it's very true. It's kind of a dream to get to play a role like this, one of Shakespeare's greats, in my lifetime at a paid theater with beautiful artists, beautiful design, wonderful people is beyond imagining. So there's a huge amount of gratitude here. The other thing is that for me personally, Richard, I think, asks me to really investigate my petty revenge fantasies. So, when someone's harmed me or hurt me or betrayed me, those little wishes I wish I could do, like maybe some gossip or maybe I don't think you deserve my time and I turn those up to 11 for Richard. So Richard gets to act out those revenge fantasies. He's been betrayed in his mind. He has been betrayed, but he's been betrayed. So it allows me to investigate the evil that's within me, the parts of me I don't want to look at, but it allows me to expand my humanity, really embrace parts of my shadow maybe I don't want to look at, which I believe is very, very healthy for us as humans. I'm a big fan of the Jungian, what we do not bring to consciousness, we will act out as fate. So I try to bring those things to consciousness. And so to get to play this part and to see the fate acted out, I think is very powerful. It's very powerful for me as an artist. I've built Richard also as profoundly lonely. He has no one. No one gets him. No one understands him. And even when he does get a few friends, they betray him in his mind again. Mm-hmm. They have every right, I think, to do what they do, but I don't see that. So I think we all know what that's like, to feel really lonely. And when I feel like people don't understand me, or what will I do to get the love and attention I need, or what won't I do? Richard is a very active character. He sets out a plan and he goes for it. Like, he does not mess around. This is not a Hamlet who's going, should I? No. He's like, I'm going to do this.
And he tells us he's going to do it.
And he tells us, and then he does it, and he's like, look what I did. Let me sum up. That's really hilarious to me. And I'm one of those people that does that a lot. Like I overshare a lot. So I get to like embrace my oversharingness too. So also just the endurance of it, like really taking care of my body. My voice, as you can hear, is a little grangey. And, you know, the things that I'm having to do, I've had to give up some things to get to do this that normally when I was younger, I probably wouldn't have had to. But gaining some humility as an artist that I can't do it all. I do have to quiet down. I do have to rest. I have to sleep, eat better. I have to ask for help, you know, carpools, you know, ask my husband to step in for things. So it's been very humbling in terms of making sure that I excel out there means that there are other things in my life I've had to set aside. And I'm kind of a do everything person. So that's been a bit hard too, but a great learning experience. So yeah, it's very important to me. Yeah.
So does approaching Richard as a woman change the way you understand or embody that ambition or manipulation or vulnerability at all?
I don't know. I want to say no, but I think, you know, I think women, as for millennia, we have learned the art of passive aggressive, right? Like because we historically have not been allowed to ask for what we want, we've had to get it on the side. So I felt growing up a lot of times as a woman, I had to sort of just get things on the side, just maybe do it over here. I've learned not to do that. It's actually not very healthy and not very constructive. So that tactic, Richard does that a lot. He does a lot aggressively and in people's faces, but he also does things on the side. I, as a woman, have always kind of had this outgoing personality. And a lot of times I was told that's a bit much, Anne. You're a bit much. So getting to be who I am as a woman that doesn't quite fit into those traditional female roles, that's been very informative and it's really served me. It also helps, like when I'm in the rehearsals where, say, the women aren't called and just the men are called. I'm still the only woman. I'm the only woman in the room. And it's kind of lonely and kind of a little different. And so it helps for Richard, because I think Richard is profoundly lonely and feels like he doesn't fit in. But we did make the choice to play Richard. Richard's a man. Richard is not a woman. Even though our advertising hints a little bit at my femininity, the point was always that I just happened to be the actor that was cast. I'm approaching it as I'm just playing a man. And you know what? No one that I know, male or female or, you know, any gender right now, is a 15th century royal cast. So the director did not have the idea of putting a woman in this role. He actually had another actor in mind, and I came into the audition and changed his mind. So that was a really wonderful story that I came in. I never thought I'd be cast. So I thought I was doing Richard one night only. So I propped it. One night only, I get to play Richard III. And it happened that he decided to go with it and change the way he thought of the production because of it. So it was it's been just a crazy confluence of events, yeah.
Excellent. What aspects of Shakespeare's work do you think remain most timeless and relatable to a 21st century audience?
Really, even though there are villains that we say, oh, these are the Shakespearean villains, Iago and particularly Richard, Shakespeare doesn't present them as a villain. Shakespeare presents all his characters very fully. So he leaves it up to us to decide. Now, other people may call him a villain or may call this person noble or good, but it's a little unclear what the audience is supposed to say. So I think one of the main reasons we keep doing Shakespeare is because he tells the truth about people. He sets up dilemmas and doesn't always answer them. Like at the end of this play, Richmond is going to be king. How'd that turn out? We still had a king, and he was the father of Henry VIII, and that seemed a bit troubling. And Henry VII murdered Clarence's son because he didn't want a rival. So, you know, who's to say who's a villain and who's a hero? And I think Shakespeare presents people as people. And when you are an artist who presents humans as humans, regardless of the time period, they do become classics. Those are the plays we do over and over again. I also think Shakespeare had a way of celebrating women and the underlings of society. I don't know if the royals were quite aware of what he was doing on the stage. So there's a subversiveness to what he was doing that he kind of put in code. And it's fun to find that code out. And I think we as humans by nature are very curious. And I think we like a little mystery. But I think it's because there are no actual villains and there are no actual heroes. I think he presents us as we really are. But again, it takes artists who are willing to really celebrate the Shakespeare and honor it so that it can transmit into this modern day clearly so we can enjoy all that stuff.
Having lived inside Richard throughout this entire production, what do you hope the audiences carry with them when they leave the theater?
Well, first off, I hope it gives them a place where they can maybe release some of the suffering that's going on right now and the fear in this world. I think, regardless of where you sit in the world right now, I mean, I know our politics are so jumbled right now. I mean, I don't even know if left and right makes any sense anymore. I think we're sitting in a world that we don't recognize as our own, but we recognize it from history in some of the most frightening times. So I hope that it gives people a place to exercise some of those demons. Maybe, there's a villain I can see and a villain that I can hate for a while, maybe for 2 hours, go, yeah. And then also maybe exorcise some of their own demons, like, oof, I've thought that before. And in the dark with strangers, allow those things to kind of flow out. So maybe to release some things, personal demons, some wishes for vengeance. And also just as a place to sit with a group of people. Maybe I know some people in the audience, maybe I don't, but we're all here breathing together and enjoying and being moved and frightened and scared and entertained by a story that's been told for 400 years. Theater builds community, it just does. And I know that word gets overused, but it really does. And this theater in particular is so good at community building, bringing in young people, older people, young people, people all over the place, just always bringing in new people. So I really hope that when people leave, they get to exercise some of those demons. They get to root for a good guy, curse out a bad guy, but then maybe look a little at themselves, but then leave the theater maybe a little stronger, a little feeling they could maybe face some of what's going on today that's so terrifying and uncertain. So maybe I hope that it will give them some strength and some sense of their own capacity.
Has playing Richard done that for you?
Yeah, definitely. It's given me the sense of like, I didn't know what I could do. Like I do a serious knife fight at the end of this. I didn't think, as old as I am, which I will not tell you, that I could do something like that. Like the endurance it takes to do this. I was like, wow, I can really do this. It also has shown me what a life's work dedicated to this craft can do. I'm good at this. Like I know how to do it. I don't say that in an ego way. I say it as a practical. I'm very good at this. I've studied my whole life and practiced my whole life to be able to do a role like this. And it's to be able to do it and to be able to do it confidently but with humility is just, it really is beyond my wildest dreams.